Okay. So welcome, dear sisters, to our beautiful call here today with lovely Naomi, who you can see hopefully on your screen. There she is, waving to us all. Wonderful. And we're here today for this beautiful Find Freedom from Food and Body Weight Obsession and Moving into Thriving in Love, Health and Life event. You know, just those little things, just in this little hour and 15 minutes. Thank you so much for joining us. It's a real honor to share this space here with you today. And thank you for saying yes to yourself, for taking this time, for showing up for yourself. It's a really big thing to celebrate. So make sure that you give yourself that celebration, and we can imagine ourselves here right now, holding hands, celebrating with each other. We've come together to discuss these things, to learn, to open ourselves to a different way, possibly. So it would be lovely if whoever is here on the call today, if you would like to share your name and where you're calling in from in the chat box, it'd be really lovely to connect with you and see who's around. And as you're doing that, just make sure as well that your space here right now is set up to be what it needs, what you need it to be to support you through the next hour and 15 minutes. Have you got a drink? Have you got a notepad? Do you want to light a candle? Anything you need to gather? Do you need a blanket? Do you need to move some things around? Just gather yourself and the things that you need for yourself right now. And just to frame today's session before we move into it, we're going to be talking to Naomi about this really important subject that she's got so much experience in. She's going to start with a meditation to ground us, to make us present, and to bring us to flow into the topic. And she's going to share all about her story and about working with these issues and where she works with these issues. And then we're going to have some chance for questions and answers and sharing in circle time. And then it'd be really, if you stay to the end as well, if you're really interested in carrying on this work for yourself, committing to yourself on this journey, then Naomi is going to share with you some really exciting opportunities to go forward working with her. So I can see my little chat box is flashing. What's going on? Okay. Debbie from Amsterdam. Hello, Debbie. Welcome, welcome. Natalie from France. Hello, Natalie. Kristen in Iceland. Hello. Valerie from Ireland. Wonderful. And Elizabeth, Liz, and I'm calling from Cheshire. Hello, hello. Wonderful to see you all here today. So continue to share and yeah, just let us know where you're from. And in the meantime, through this call, we'll start with a meditation, so we'll let ourselves drop in there. But then when we flow into talking, if any questions are coming up around the topics that Naomi is talking about, then share them in that question and answer, the chat box down there as well. That'd be wonderful. Okay, so Naomi is here. You can see her there. Hello, Naomi. Naomi is an internal family systems therapist and a food freedom mentor and coach who's worked with hundreds of women over the years with these issues, including herself, first of all, to support and guide discovery of freedom with food, with body image, with body weight obsessions, just once and for all. So moving into that happy, healthy, thriving life that many of us crave. So I'm going to hand over to Naomi now to guide us in meditation, to bring us presence and to start us off into this. Thanks, Naomi.
Thank you so much, Jen. What a wonderful introduction, and what an honor it is to be here. And I'm particularly excited to be able to see a few faces I recognize and lots of new faces as well, and really excited to hear all the amazing places that people are coming in and calling in from today. So I'm really just honored to be here and to be invited into this safe, sacred space. I would love to get us started with an energetic gathering of our energies together as a circle, because what I've discovered over the years of working in this topic is that when we women come together with a true desire to create transformational healing shifts and to support one another through showing up, not in some of the same ways that we've tended to support one another by trying to do everything for one another, but literally by showing up in presence and being open to these new possibilities for healing. So just to set that theme, I'm going to invite us all to come together physically and be grounded and present as a circle. And although it's a bit strange that we're all over the world, that we're looking into a little computer screen, actually, if you can drop into imagining the energetic ties that guide us and that connect us as women, because I truly believe that these body image and negative cycles around our experiences with our bodies and weights have literally been plaguing us as women for quite a few generations. And the good news is that I believe that healing is on its way. It's happening for us now as a community of women all over the world. We can come together and show up and be present for that. So really huge welcome, everyone. Gather yourself, as Jen said, into a place that feels comfortable. And for me, for this meditation, that also includes physical comfort. So it may be that your body does feel strong enough to sit upright with a spine gently relaxed and your head poised, your shoulders relaxed, or it may be that you prefer to lie down. Either is absolutely fine. Just take that time to adjust your body into a position that feels just really good and nourishing, where you're not struggling. See if you can ease yourself into this receptive mode. There's nothing that you need to do. You'll have your journals near you for jotting down reflections after the meditation. Now I'm going to invite you to start to focus on your breathing and how your breath moves or doesn't move through your body. It may feel that the flow is quite easy for you right now. Or it may feel that there's some stuckness or ways in which the breath finds itself shallow. And just gently, ever so gently, invite the breath to expand even a little bit more deeply into your body, to the lower parts of your belly. And then gently relaxing and exhaling. You may even want to make a little sound as you exhale. Just letting go. Anything that's been bothering you. In food, in life, in relationships, just And then allowing the body to expand again gently. Just to the degree that feels comfortable to you. And then just releasing, letting go. And as you do this, noticing any areas of tension in your body, maybe that your jaw feels a little tight or your belly a little tense, maybe your neck or shoulders or eyes or hands. Wherever it is for you, just again invite the breath to aid you in allowing a little more softening. Just a little melting. Nothing you need to do right now. And now I'm going to invite you to bring an image, thoughts, or feelings into your mind as to where you've been in your path of food and body in your life. Maybe that an image comes through to you. Go with the first one. I always find that the body, the mind, the soul know where we need to go. And if any parts of you come up that feel fearful, that actually going back to these memories gives them power, that we're going to somehow go back to that place in real time. If any of those fearful parts arise, maybe just reconnect to your breath and let my voice just wash over you until you feel safe enough to tune in again. And if things have been really tricky or painful for you in your relationship with food and your weight, your body image, and some of those images and memories start to arise, you may wish to even peek through a window at those, knowing that that's not now, and that you're safe and held in the circle of women. Or perhaps, in fact, it's good times that come to mind. Times where you felt strong, in control, healthy, where you loved your body. And if these are the memories that come to you now, then allow yourself to really drink in the joy and celebration of those good times. And even as you explore in your mind and with your feelings how that was for you in the past, I invite you to stay connected to your breath, to your body. We're looking back, but we are actually right here in this circle. And now I invite you to let those images, those thoughts, those memories gradually fade away. Perhaps in a little puff of smoke or washed away by a river. Noticing in your body how that feels, that you're back here in the now. And now I invite you to notice any thoughts or feelings related to how you are today when it comes to food in your body. What's it like for you today in this very intimate, sometimes quite complicated relationship? See if you can connect with the qualities of curiosity, of openness. See if you can be neutral as you observe and witness. And feelings may arise. Maybe disappointment or criticism, frustration. Or maybe positive emotions like a tingling excitement changes on its way. Whatever feelings, whatever opinions come up for you, see if you can relax and be the witness. Simply observing and accepting how it is for you at this time. And then again, to support you to come back to the present, you may energetically wish to hold hands with your sisters who are on this path right now doing this too. And we're going to just go on one final little journey to see if parts of you would be willing to have your true vision and desire of food and body be shown to you. And again, go with that first thought, go with that first emotion. It may be that you have an image come to mind as to what food and body freedom means to you. See if you can allow yourself to really receive that, really drink that in. And notice what happens to your parts when you really drink in this image for hope. This vision of where you'd like to be stepping and heading when it comes to food in your body. Parts of you may have witnessed continuous excitements, followed by disappointments whenever you've undertaken a fresh new start. And they actually may feel a little bit hesitant for you to really receive and drink in your heart's desire in this area and to really see what's possible for you. Parts of you may have thoughts like, that may be possible for other women, but that ain't possible for me. And really notice if there are parts that feel quite hopeless like that, or that don't want you to get open, joyful, infused. I really believe that every part of us is trying to keep us safe and really honor those parts if they show up now. and stop you from really entering into a sense of where you want to be headed here. So let those parts know, if they are there, that you're with them, that it's safe. Safe to simply see and be and feel your desire, even if it's just a glimpse, even if just for a moment. What would food and body freedom really look and feel like for you? What do you long for? In a moment, we're going to start to make the journey back into a physical space together, which will mean in our own time, we'll be gently, gradually opening our eyes. We'll be perhaps looking up at the screen, connecting with faces. But first, really honor your pace of coming back. It may be that you would like to reflect more deeply on some of the things that you shared with yourself, some of the memories, the thoughts, the inspiring ideas for where you'd like to head. And if that's the case, then before dropping back into the circle, you may like to stay in your safe space, even do a bit of journaling, jot down any thoughts, any feelings. Or you may wish to just let those thoughts and feelings gradually fade. And thank the parts of you that have showed up in that little meditation, that journey. And just taking one final deep cleansing, life-giving breath as we join hands again. Some of us may wish to open our eyes. You may even invite your body back through a bit of a stretch, or maybe rotating your shoulders, giving yourself a little tap or a little massage, welcoming yourself back. And I'm going to welcome you back, Jen. Over to you. Thank you, everyone, for joining me.
Thanks, everyone. Really lovely energy here together. And I realized that at the very beginning I didn't introduce myself, so some of you are like, who are you? And if you haven't been on one of our events before and you haven't seen us live, my name's Jen Evans. I've been co-directing the Women's Wellness Circle with Frances Goodall for a while now, and we hold the circle for people with chronic illnesses and chronic issues to a safe space to come in, bring your complete unique self, and to find the healing in community that you need. So let's get into some of this topic more. Naomi, I can't wait to hear more about this from you. It's such a pivotal topic. So do you just want to start by telling us more about your personal story and but more of this area for you?
Sure, that would be my pleasure. I'm happy to share even the most darkest twists and turns of my relationship with food and body, and there were some dark twists and turns. I sometimes feel like I wouldn't have had the passion or the motivation to really face what I needed to inside myself, to really receive the support I needed to, and to really open myself to the changes that were possible for me, unless I had really been quite overwhelmed, quite mired really in this issue of food and body obsession. And there's something, I name them differently, food and body, and there's something very, very deeply connected between those two issues, or there was for me. I sometimes think of it as a sort of double helix of obsession, where, for example, if I was at a party in my, say, early 20s, sort of when I was really in the roaring 20s of my food and body obsession, I would simultaneously feel obsessed by checking out all the other women in the room and kind of noticing how slim they were, how slim their stomachs were, you know, and their waist circumferences, how small, how tiny. And then sort of judging myself on some kind of imagined ladder of self-worth, depending on where I fell on that ladder. Was it bigger or was it slimmer than those women? And then at the same time at that party, I might simultaneously be eyeballing the chocolate cake or the, you know, the bowl of salty, fatty snacks. And somehow these two obsessions kind of ping-ponged with each other. One, of course, would give rise to the other, because it would be so distressing and distracting not to feel connected by my sisters, but to feel envious and in competition with them, and as if I was never good enough or never beautiful enough. And that men would never notice me, that I'd never find my Prince Charming, my heart's desire. And then at the same time, really, really noticing those foods. If I ate those foods, extremely critical with myself. If I ate more than I thought, then I'd have to have some kind of plan whereby there'd be some kind of calorie loss or some kind of new goal that I'd set for myself. And so these things really took up so much head space, so much heart space. And what I see now in every single woman that I work with, and including myself in the changes that I've gone through in my life, this topic of food and body is inextricably and magically connected to every single area, I believe, of our lives. It certainly was of my life, my creative life, my health, my sexuality, the way I showed up in relationships, my boundaries or lack of boundaries was connected to my relationship with food, and my body, how much I was able to love, respect my body. And it was pretty all consuming until I sort of hit my rock bottom. I'd say that was around 2004. I was probably about 23 or 24 at the time. And really since then, it was at first a bit of a slow trek, like a kind of slow steps of an upward spiral. And then at a certain point in my kind of mid to late 20s, I experienced this kind of clicking of puzzle pieces into place, where I had some really good things happening for me. I had some good ways of helping myself in this area. And there were a few puzzle pieces, two puzzle pieces, in fact, were significantly missing. And at this period, it was a period of about 3 to 6 months, those puzzle pieces got clicked into place, and literally my journey of food and body freedom went on a fast track. And I knew how important it was, and I completely committed to it. And so I would say there's about 4 things that are essential to be in place for the foundations of food and body to be able to occur. And the most important thing is for those to be able to sustain, because many of us have had short periods of feeling free, feeling relaxed, feeling at peace and ease. And then something may happen, or we may just dip back into that obsession. And there we go, we're on a sort of another merry-go-round of that food and body burden cycle. And actually what we're really looking for and hoping for is to set the foundations for a lasting change. And that's, in my experience, something that certain ingredients need to be in place. And because I went through that journey, first about 10 years, I'd say, of being in the problem, and then that journey of learning the solution for myself, and then growing and teaching and sharing it with other women, what I notice is that 3 to 6 months is a really great amount of time for us to start to put those ingredients into place and really set those foundations for change that isn't going to just tease us by seeming to be a good change and then go back into another cycle of disappointment, really, when really what we want is freedom.
Yeah. So what are those? What are those 4 magical ingredients? Can you just discuss those with us today?
Yeah. So it's something that I've called the Food and Body Freedom Star Points. And there are actually 6 of them in total. 2 of them I address more in the Thriving program, which is a program that goes into a little bit more depth and is a bit more of a slow and gentle route. But in the Foundation 3-month program, we go quite deeply into these star points. So the ones that were in place already for me, when I was already starting to make some really great changes, were I was increasingly willing to be able to make time and space for myself, and stillness and peace consistently, because in the past I'd done a lot all at once, and then I'd sort of gone back to doing nothing. Whereas this is about little and often. I always see it time and again. The changes that we make that sustain are perhaps underneath our perfectionist standards for ourselves. And yet, because they're manageable for us in our lives and with our health challenges and with the busyness of life, we actually can do it time and again. And it can change and be flexible and evolve. But it's always present as a way that we give to ourselves.
Mm.
And the other thing I think is extremely key is receiving support. So I've spoken about being in circle, but there's something particularly significant about being in circle with women that are specifically looking at and going on a journey of transformation in this topic, because this is a rich topic. Many of us are experiencing a lot of the same things and the difficult challenges that we experience. But we've often been quite in isolation when it comes to our journeys. We haven't necessarily wanted to tell our closest sisters or our families what we go through, how much we actually perhaps are troubled by how our bodies look or what we choose to eat. We haven't really laid our hearts on the line, and perhaps it hasn't felt safe enough for us to do so. So creating safe spaces and then taking advantage of those spaces to really let go of the shame voices that think we're the only freak, we're the only greedy, fat, out of control, whatever harsh words we can sling at ourselves. Actually, those words start to soften, and those ideas that we are somehow strange or alone in this start to fade away when we join in with other women.
Yeah, I really hear you on that safety element, because and safety to then be vulnerable about oneself is essential in every single kind of treatment and issue, and it doesn't matter what it is. It's just, that's the universal thing, is finding that safety. And I know for me, all of my issues stemmed from just never feeling safe in a physical environment, but also then as my true self. Like if I'm myself and I say what I'm thinking and feeling and believing, then I'll get attacked. And so yeah, I'm really with you on the safety.
Powerful beliefs that we're not safe to be ourselves.
Yeah.
And so often these beliefs are at the core of our food and body image issues, specific ones tied to specific incidents that we've been through when we were really young and forming our relationships with food and learning about our sexuality, for example, when we were in our teenage years. And so it takes enough safety and enough feeling of that actually we deserve a life of food and body freedom in order to feel that actually we can start to explore some of these areas and feel that we can be held in that.
Yeah, really beautiful. Yeah. Wow, yeah, so deep stuff. And just everyone else, if things are coming up for you around this, like to keep journaling, jot things down, and to put anything you want to ask later on in the call into the chat box as it comes up as we're talking about these things. Knowing that this is a safe space, a confidential space for us to discuss this and come together as our vulnerable and loving selves. So can you just tell us a bit more then, Naomi, about like how then you go about working with this, how because like I know that I when I speak to some people and they haven't either gone very far or even started the journey towards what they want, but they know that something needs to change, they know that they're craving, they know that they're wanting a different life, but they haven't quite made any steps yet. What kind of things do you do to build towards that, systems to put in place?
Well, I'm quite passionate about the systems that I've created, which are the food and body freedom steps and also the food and body star points. And the difference between them is that I see the steps as the transformational journey that we go through in order to find that healing. And if we were some kind of superpower, which we're not, we probably could find that freedom by ourselves, just at home, doing that work, or with the support of a therapist or one-to-one. But because I've already mentioned that I think being connected to other people in this is so helpful, so that we're not always adding to that reservoir of shame inside ourselves, like we're the only one, and also just to keep our sense of motivation and just gentle, loving accountability through the process. I believe it's so important also, while we're working through those steps of freedom, to start to explore and incorporate the star points. And the star points are really the elements that I identified in my own healing journeys, and then that I've sort of tweaked and changed as I've been working with women, and I've received the feedback from all those many hundreds of women that I've worked with over the decades that have found the kind of freedom that they've really been aspiring for, envisioning and looking for. Mm-hmm. And they, I would say, are kind of like the handrails that we hold on to as we're going along the steps. They're supports, they're resources for us. They're ways in which we can always come back to safety and know that we're not alone. Because so many of us have felt quite empty inside, and we've used either overeating or undereating to somehow fill that hole, or distract us, or numb us, or help us escape from painful things that originally occurred within our bodies. Our bodies have been the sites for vulnerable things that have occurred. Mm. And so as youngsters or as teenagers or in our 20s, etc., just our younger selves have often turned towards the kinds of foods that have worked when it comes to helping us numb out and escape. And they're not always the kinds of foods that are most wholesome for us. And so that leads us back, of course, into that cycle of criticism, which is not the way out. Mm. Criticism and control is not the way out. So the systems that I've created and put in place, and that I've put in place in my own life, are very essentially a gentle way out of the same negative cycle of indulgence followed by criticism and control, followed by shame, leading back to wanting to escape from the shame and numbing out, or escape from the fear or the pain of whatever's going on, either from our pasts coming up, bubbling up for us, or in our presence, that then leads us back to the criticism. It's kind of, we need to find a way out of that cycle, and that's what the systems, I think, that will work for us are going to help us, to support us to do.
Yeah, that sounds applicable to and because we end up in those cycles, or, you know, whatever the thing that we're focusing on or soothing with or escaping with, or that sounds critical, that we get right. Tools to break that, because, you know, we I know that for me, I wanted to, and I think, right, I'll start on this track and this will be the thing that will break that, but I wasn't focusing on the root of it. I was focusing on, you know, oh yeah, I'll stop smoking this year or something. But smoking, well, you know, isn't really the issue. It's what's the reason, what's the crutch, why is it that I desperately needed that?
Right. A slogan that I really love that I've heard was, and many women come my way because they really, really want to lose weight, for example, or they want to be they want to look a certain way, which makes complete sense. And I honor that decision. And in fact, it was what really got me going on my journey, because, you know, my weight from age 18, I wasn't able to stay slim anymore. You know, I couldn't eat whatever I wanted anymore. My weight really swung across a large spectrum. So that was the initial motivator. But the slogan that I loved, that I heard so much, I wish I'd authored it, but I didn't, was, I came for this. I came for the vanity. I stayed for the sanity. Mm. I just because, I mean, the vanity, it's like, it totally makes sense. You know, of course, we're women. We love, we enjoy that beautiful feminine sense of grace and ease, and of course, you know, and it's so connected to our health as well. And we start to taste something when we really get a ways on this journey, which is just tastes better than any food we might ever taste, or any look in the mirror that we might ever enjoy. And that is this feeling of creative blossoming and passion and intimacy in our relationships, the sanity basically that comes along as a byproduct of our food and body journey.
Yeah, absolutely. And so you mentioned, the connection to health and the physical health. So could you just outline a little bit about how you see that connected to longer term health issues? And because the circle really does support any ongoing condition, but we have so many people with chronic fatigue and chronic pain and that sort of thing. So can you just speak to that a little?
Yeah, and actually my own food and body struggles were also tied up with my chronic issues, which are actually issues around my bladder, and also chronic sinus issues, which thankfully have melted away. But also anxiety and depression were very, very much tied in. And I'm really grateful that you speak to the chronic health challenges piece, because certainly certain foods, not just the foods themselves, but the cycles we can get into with them do cause health flare-ups. They cause mental, emotional, physical health flare-ups. Certain foods, I believe, are inflammatory to our bodies, but what I believe is more inflammatory than any food that we could possibly ingest into our body is the self-criticism that we then that parts of us, I should say, then whip us with.
Yeah,
And
I
I
agree
don't
with
mean
you there.
they
Yeah,
don't do it because they're mean.
yeah,
They do it because they're trying to help us.
yeah. I completely agree with you. When I had many food issues before I transitioned into a chronic illness, and then through the healing journey, and I concentrated. My first 3 years of trying to recover were all about food. That was, I just thought, because it's, my stomach had been bad for ages, and then the fatigue had come on, and every time I ate a certain thing or did a certain thing I got tired. It must be related, it must be just physical, and
Right,
food was the only connection I could make there. So I just did the diets and the supplements and the starving myself and all of that stuff to start with.
right.
My slogan that came out for me by the time that I went through all of that, and that wasn't the answer, was, it's not food, it's fear.
I
And
love it.
that's it for me.
I,
Like, it's all, like, all of this stuff is just chronic fear. It's chronic fear that we're going to get attacked, like, for our, whether we're going to look, or our weight, or our face, or our clothing, or our intelligence, or our actual physical safety. Like, we're in this chronic state of fear, especially as women, because there's so many layers in our culture as well with
yeah,
that.
and I would say also anger. And fear can be that heart, or the shame, and that anger can sometimes go there as
Yeah,
well. Anger that we haven't expressed, and so of course it feels easier to push it down with food. And then of course,
mm,
if especially if we have chronic health challenges, there are going to be those inner critics that say, "What are you doing? You're keeping yourself ill as well."
yeah,
And yet,
yeah,
pushing ourselves, striving for perfection in our diets and in our
mm,
lives and with our health, it just, like you said, it just generates more pressure, more
yeah,
internal pressure. and and then, yeah, getting ill, getting terrified will get worse. We bully ourselves more. We
yeah,
try to get even more perfect. We get even more overwhelmed, and it's
yeah.
like it's like
Cycle.
another piece of the cycle.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. I gave myself orthorexia because of trying to heal chronic fatigue. So yeah, the layers kept adding, and then I had to shed them to understand that it was that piece of just being in
Right.
fear about all these things. So
And so much
yeah,
information out there, right? And quite a lot of it's conflicting. And
yeah,
but also, the sort of paradox is that food is, I mean, what we take into our body is significant. It
mm,
is part of it.
yeah,
And that's very real. I mean, our energy ups and downs, if we're not taking care to nourish and sustain ourselves through the day, if we're not taking in good nutrition, keeping our energy balanced, yes, it is real that we experience these ups and downs that really don't encourage and support us on our journey, our healing journey from a chronic health challenge.
yeah.
So if
And
we
it's so
are,
unique.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And that's what we have to remember, and that's like a message that I want to always say to people: you are completely unique, and like, listen to your body, listen to your what it's telling you. What does it need right now? Does it need some protein? Does it need it to go and lie down? Does it need to go and look at a tree? Like, that's what will heal, rather than some strict like thing that you found on Google, that somebody else might have done and healed. But actually, your path is your own, so you're going to have to find that,
absolutely.
where the support comes. That's where the support comes, because you can support that.
Yeah,
um
and I agree. And I think the food and body journey is essentially one of reclaiming that connection with our body and with our knowing, that
mm,
we can drink when we're thirsty, we can eat when we're hungry, that we can breathe when we need to, we can rest when we need to.
yeah,
Food is such an important part of that piece. And yet, many of us can hear the instruction, listen to your body. And because our relationships with food and body were formed often so long ago, it can be really tricky to apply that. We might theoretically know that, and yet to really go to a place where we are responding, we can eat when we're hungry and stop when we're full. Things that should
mm,
be obvious how to do, and yet for many of us, we lost connection with that capacity to be able to do that what should be a so-called simple thing.
yeah,
And so it's about nurturing ourselves back to that place where we are responding to our own bodies and our own needs. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. Wonderful. Okay, so that's some really nice starter topics for everyone to start mulling on and thinking over. So if anyone has got any, I'll check the chat now, but if has anyone got any questions, anything they want to share, please do type it into that chat box. And if there's anyone here that doesn't feel like they want to or can type it in and would rather ask the question audio, switch your thing on, put your hand up and I'll switch on your audio, and that'd be okay to do as well to connect. So I'm just going to check in here, see what's happening. Oh, what's that message? Somebody's trying to send me a message. There's a message from Asher. Did Naomi finish her explanation of the 4-star points? I only got 2 down and would love to hear the rest. If I missed them, oops. I don't know. Did we? Did we get sidetracked? We might have. I'm not sure. It's been so interesting.
It's a rich topic, so we probably went off on a forked road.
Yes. What did we get through? So we got through time. Oh yeah. Well, you do them again.
Yes, we got through the first 2. The ones that we didn't get through were star point 3 and star point 4. I might just say, because as a little kind of backstory, the ones that I had in place, and you can kind of keep count of this if you're taking notes, I had number 1 in place. That had started to get really consistent in my life. And I started to get number 3 in place, which I'll tell you about in a minute. And then in that sort of journey of kind of, I'd say 3 to 6 months, where I went through a really beautiful transformation. And I guess, well, I would say my relationship with food and body has really never been the same again. I got star point 2 and 4 in place, and star point 2 and 4. So that's the accountability and support, which I've already talked about, specifically to do with this journey of food and body. And then 3 and 4, one of which I was already making tracks with, that's number 3, I call it starting to slow the food burden cycle. And really the way to do that is through following what I've created and call the eating guidelines. And it can be tricky for us to have guidelines around food. You know, oftentimes we're like, don't tell me what to do with food. You know, it can have been some of our first freedom is to really be in control of our relationship with food. So it's in no way trying to take away that control. The guidelines are more a gentle invitation to explore a way of being with our food that truly nourishes us, that our bodies can truly take in the food, digest it. And that is whether it is a planned meal, something that we like the fact that we're eating, that we want to eat, or whether it's an unplanned meal or binge or snack, something that we're like, damn it, I didn't want to be eating that at this time. The beauty is that we can apply star point 3 to the food that we eat and the times that we eat, any time that we eat it. And it's literally an invitation to slow. There are certain points to it, certain bullet points, if you like, suggested guidelines for how to be with food in a way that really allows us to digest our food, not just kind of wolf it down or kind of be eating, but be actually in lots of fear thoughts about the future or the past. And yeah, settle with our food so that we can really take it in and allow it to nourish us, whatever it is, even if we wish we weren't eating it.
Yeah, I think I could do with a bit of that. That sounds amazing, because just as I was speaking, I just realised there's probably still a couple of certain foods where I'll still think of them in that fear way, because they would have been, totally off the list a couple of years ago because of the, oh, that's inflammatory, or that's, going to set that off. And there's still some belief around that in there. So that sounds a very constructive way to deal with that, because if you're eating it and you're saying, well, no, I shouldn't be, or I might, oh, it's gonna set that off, then, well, it's going to set something off because your stress cycle has started. It's not
absolutely,
it's not the food anymore. It's because your stress is
right. For all animals, we're just like any other animal, where we can only really digest our food and assimilate our food in our bodies if we're not stressed.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is kind of easier said than done, because it's a stressful life, but pretty key in our journey of healing. It's the same if you watch like a field of rabbits. They're kind of like all alert. They might be eating, but they're all alert. But then as soon as there's actual danger, they'll run. They're not going to sit around eating grass. Yeah. And we're the same in that kind of animal way. We're responding to stressors all the time. And it's so important for us to find time and space to be with our meals, and to really prioritize it as an absolute essential self-care action if we're really going to make tracks escaping from some of those negative cycles around food.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Great. So did we get through all the points this time, or
No,
did
that
we
was
miss
number
any more?
three. That was
Right,
number three.
okay. Still another one.
And actually number one, which was making space and time, putting myself first in that way, enabled me to actually start to put myself first in the way of being with my food in a different way as well. So those two go really well together. And then number four was what I call loving food boundaries. And that can be so different for every woman. It's as different as night and day. And that's why I love what you said about our unique journey. Not only is the food we eat specifically different and nourishing or otherwise to different women and at different times in our lives, but also what we need in terms of a plan, a food plan, if you like, over here, versus no plan at all, but listening, noticing, moment by moment, making up or stepping into our day with food as we go along. What we need as women now and at different times in our lives is going to change. So loving food boundaries is a process by which we can discover for us what it is we need in order to really find the most peaceful and the most surrendered relationship with food. I have no opinion on whether having a plan or having no plan is good, because I know there are lots and lots of like hotly opposed opinions about this, and I really think there can absolutely be no pat answer for us all. But what's important is for us to connect with and find a structured, supported way of connecting with our truth when it comes to this.
Yeah. Yeah, that's amazing. I know that so many of my like one-to-one clients, or a lot of people that come looking for answers when they've got issues, specific issues, whether it's the health issue or the relationship with their food, they're looking for the answer. They're looking to read that book or be told by the therapist. I know when I first started working with a coach, I was like, I just want you to tell me what to do. And then I'll apply those things, and I'm sure it'll all be fine. But I had no idea that I was this unique being that needed to find my own way and take a little bit from this thing and a little bit from that thing, and to support my own issues, my own healing, and then my own unique life that I wanted to be living as well. So
yeah, I think finding our own way is very, very different from floundering around on our own.
Yeah,
I think riverbank supports, specific supports in specific areas, are really important, really vital, and to hear from people that have walked this path and know what we may be struggling with and help invite us to discover our own truth. I think that's essential.
I totally agree. I think it's done. I think it's done in relation. I think that reflection back and learning from others, and then reflecting and like having that trust and safety to then find your own way is held in connection. And if we're trying to do it by ourselves, you can get a certain way maybe, and you might have certain insights, but bringing it back to that connection and that accountability, or that friendship, or that support. And I've done a lot of my healing, and I've talked about this a lot publicly, in groups, in small groups, in larger groups. I've been running a community, so obviously like I believe in this as a healing part, like an essential part of our healing. And I know that you run your things in groups to have this
Right.
accountability and this
So that we can
connection.
get to star point two, basically, so that
Yeah,
we don't need to figure out, how
yeah,
do I find these safe spaces? Oh,
yeah,
because there it is. And then it's also about going that step further often and creating those connections even when we don't want to. We might
yeah,
want to go to the fridge or go to not eating
yeah,
where something comes up for us.
yeah,
And actually maybe that's our habit. Maybe we
yeah.
don't even know something's coming up for us.
No, but if we keep doing what we've always done, we'll always get what we've always got. So that's the difference, and sometimes we need to make that brave step. And for some people that might be here for the first time, and hearing this kind of thing for the first time, or maybe you've heard it many times, or maybe it's the first time you've been here with us, you can see that we get it. And like when I first stepped into something like this, I was like, this isn't for me. I don't need to do this. I just need the information, and I'll go back by myself over there, and I'll sort it out myself, because that's the way I'd learned how to do everything in my life, and because it was safer. And just turning it for yourself shows that you've, even if it's subconscious, you're reaching out for something different, and you're here today with us in connection. whether you like it or not.
And
So
I have to say that I do believe in sort of the self-study route. I do believe that solitary contemplation is very, very rich and can be extremely helpful,
yeah,
and that it's not an avoidance for being in connection. So there's both, and I think both are
yeah,
important parts of the puzzle.
yeah. That's our uniqueness, and we're these paradoxes. We are unique and we are one. So there's the whole spectrum in between, which we can explore and find what's right for us. That's really nice. So yeah, so a quick look at the chat box, make sure I'm not missing anything important. And again, if anyone has anything burning that they want to bring up or share, please do raise your hand if you've got your video on, or put in the box. I'll just check again, refresh my page. There's nothing showing for me at this end, so if there's something that you've sent, I'm sure it'll pop up in a moment. But Naomi, do you want to move in then to just talking about like these constructive and supportive opportunities that you have for people to take this further, if that's the route that they want to take now with you?
Sure. So some of the ways that we can work as a group are obviously an event like this. Like, it's really great that you've showed up for a start. Like, well done and congratulations, because it really, to me, that really speaks to a sense of identification and a sense of knowing that change is possible. And actually, from the women that I've worked with over the years, I have to say that it's not those that need it that receive the freedom. It's those that really consistently show up and do kind of those small little doable actions every day and make it a priority, basically. So big congratulations for coming here and for listening and being open to this. I mentioned the 3-month journey and the 6-month journey. My real transformation occurred in around 3 to 6 months. And so I've created over the years 2 different ways in, or 2 different strands into this journey of food and body, which I feel are supportive and comprehensive enough and really cover all the elements of food and body freedom. One is the Food and Body Foundations program, and the other one is the 6 months Food and Body Thriving program. And in each, they're both slightly different, but in each of them, I guide women to become free of any challenges with food and body weight, even if they've struggled for many years. So some women think, oh, this is maybe achievable for a younger woman, or this is maybe something that other women can do if they have like really great willpower or have loads of control over their issues with food. It really doesn't have anything to do with willpower or control. If we've got these challenges, even if we've struggled for a long time, it's the same ingredients, the same healing ingredients that really work. And I've witnessed healing in women of all ages. So if parts of you are thinking those thoughts, then see if you can allow them to take that in, see what they say about that. So, as I said, the 3-month Food and Body Foundations program is one way to experience this journey. And then the 6-month Food and Body Thriving program, or FAB Thriving program, is like the continuation of that, although there's a route into the FAB Thriving program via a self-study program. So doing the foundations as a self-study. And actually, there's a special offer to women who found out about this process of freedom through the Women's Wellness Circle. It's just a limited offer for this winter only, winter 2020. And it's a way to receive all of the content of the Food and Body Foundations as a self-study process with individual support via email or your preferred app. So I'm a big fan of WhatsApp because I love leaving those voice messages. But it may be that you prefer the written word, and that's fine as well. So if you want to learn more about that way of experiencing food and body freedom, then feel free to sign up for a free consultation with me. I'm going to drop that in, or get you, Jen, to drop that in the box. I think maybe I haven't got the power to do that, or I'm not clever enough at that. And I also have a few spaces currently available on the New Year Food and Body Freedom 14-day bootcamp, which, although it isn't, like I said, this sort of 3 or 6 months transformational process, it can be a really nice kind of way to just start to open the heart and the mind and the soul to what might be possible for you in your food and body journey. And actually, yeah, it's kind of a nice way to be in the receptive mode. And I'm not going to lie to you, like being in the receptive mode only without sort of taking this consistent action perhaps isn't the only energy that's needed for this journey. It's a mixture of receptivity and openness, but also taking those actions, those daily manageable actions that are probably going to be what it is that is the key for you. And yeah, if you'd like to have a few seeds sown and you'd like to discover more about my experiences and beliefs with food and body and my gentle, supportive guidance, then do sign up for the New Year Food and Body Freedom. There are still a few the boot camp, there are still a few places left on that. And it is a paid camp, but it is actually free for anyone that's been on this call or is listening to the recording. Simply write WWC, Women's Wellness Circle, into the space where it says the coupon code box. Basically, do you have a coupon code on the enrollment form? And I can invite you into the boot camp for free. That starts in early February, and it's a 14-day boot camp. And there's also a free one-day event happening on the 21st of February, which is totally free, and you can also sign up for that. And I think the link is also there. So thanks very much for dropping that in, Jen. But I think really, if what I've said has kind of resonated with you and you're getting a sense of, yeah, you know, this woman might be onto something, or maybe she speaks sense, or just any sense of resonance or a feeling of this could be my year, my decade for starting to loosen some of these food, body image, body weight burdens that may have been hampering you for your whole life. And you'd like to dive in and discover a bit more about kind of the beginning steps for you from now, maybe that you've been on this path for a while, but sort of starting where you are, and you'd like to talk to me individually about that, then please do sign up for a free 30-minute consultation with me. The link is also there. And if you'd like to discuss any of the options and consider whether any of those things would be useful for you, then do go ahead and take advantage of that for a limited period. I think that's open all through probably until probably March or so. So I'm going to be updating my calendar. So if you leave it for a while and then you think, yeah, I'd like to have a go, then feel free to come back then. Sometimes these things can take time, I think, to process. So yeah, thanks for asking, Jen.
Thank you for the generosity of the things that you're offering, because it's such amazing support. Because to start with, it's like, where's my support? Where do I get it? And then you're offering lots of different ways to really start that journey. And I was watching rewatching an Oprah Winfrey video the other day, and she was talking about. So I think there's a quote that's from her that is used quite a lot. You know, that when we're trying to change, and when we realize that actually something's out of balance and we want to move in a different direction in some way, that really all you can do is the next right step.
Right.
It's just that one next right step. It's not saying, right, so I need to know that she's got the actual full answer, and that's where there's the perfect thing over there, and she's gonna do that, or I'm gonna do that. It's saying, I'm gonna take that first step and then see where that fits in me, and do the work at that step, because you can't go from step here to step 29 without taking each step by itself. So
such rich wisdom, and from what I've noticed from my own different parts of me, the ones that tend to be very, very highly focused on the future, on in 6 months, in a year, in 18 months, those tend to be the ones that, like you said, have more of that energy of fear. Whereas the ones that are more based on maybe fears and concerns, but more grounded in concerns about today, or ideas about today, joys, enthusiasms about today, they tend to be the ones that have more of that potentially healing energy, and I can access it through those more next step at a time, like you said, those moments.
Yeah. Step at a time. Yeah, because I'm that's exactly what I would teach, and that's exactly what I do for in myself and with any of my clients. Is we can only we're dealing with what's right here, right now. We can have a vision and we can have a goal, and all of those things are great energy that are pulling us forward into the future, but to the reason that we haven't already done that, there's a reason why we haven't done that, and it's, all these subconscious things, all the parts and the fears and everything that's going on uniquely for us. But okay, today, what part am I going to work with today?
Right.
And we have to go through the steps, don't we, with the parts, because we can't just say, parts, stop being scared.
No.
Let's go off and we'll be fine. Let's get on the beach. It's going to be brilliant. We need to do the work there, the release work and the transformation work there. So doing that in community and the kind of support that you're outlining here sounds incredibly supportive, because we can do a lot of that by ourselves, but we need a helping hand. We all need a helping hand, every single human.
And you're so right. I truly believe that every single part of us is for us. Even if they're holding on tight for control and, it's causing us to feel really overwhelmed, they're not there. Those parts of us, whether they're controlling parts with food or body or anything in our lives, because these things are so connected, or they're critical ones, or they're fearful ones, like you said, then they're not stupid.
Yeah.
They've come out of difficult situations often. They're doing the best they can to keep us safe. Yeah. And when we can allow them to know that they actually don't need to be working perhaps quite as hard as they have been, there is more support, there are more resources here than they could possibly have imagined or known or received, because back when they stepped into their roles, there really wasn't the support. Yeah. So it's a sort of coming to presence in food, in body, and in a community, like you said.
Yeah, those parts are, I call them brilliant. They are absolutely brilliant, those parts, because they saved our lives. They did the absolute best they could in that moment, and they saved our lives. But maybe their energy could now be used for not saving our lives, but thriving in our lives. But we've got to update them somewhat, and help them with the pain that they're in. So
right.
any access point that we can use to get to them, especially your everyday thing. Food is something that we meet throughout the day. Drink is something we meet throughout the day. Ourselves, our body is something that we're in all day. So of course, if we start there and feel into what's going there, we're going to find access points to those parts.
Yeah, beautifully said. It's so intimate, it's so close, and it's so fundamental, so essential.
Yeah, absolutely. Right, let me just check for anything else on here. Debbie says, this was really great. Oh, thanks, Debbie. Thank you. My battery is dying. Oh, dear. But she'll listen to the rest. Grateful. Thank you, Debbie. Thank you for your words of gratefulness. And Kristen, hearing the two of you use the words fear and stress is lighting up all my lights. Wonderful. Thank you both for wisdom and generosity. Well, you're very welcome, Kristen, and thank you for bringing yours here to this circle and this energy. We're not doing this, like what we're talking about, we are not doing this event in isolation. We're here with you, and the energy of anyone that's listening in afterwards as well is part of what we're creating and offering to each other here. So thank you for bringing your presence forward. Okay, there's no burning questions in there. So is there anything you want to outline or wrap up in, Naomi, that you feel like called to speak about before we?
I think, just one last little piece is that I think what I'm witnessing increasingly is that it isn't just negative emotions that parts of us would have us go back into challenging food and body cycles to deflect from. I think also sometimes it can be when we really start to make changes, positive changes in our chronic health, for example, in our challenges with life, when we're starting to expand and step out and become more of who we are and who we can be. Sometimes that's when those challenging relationships with food can start to come back, or can flare up. And I think that's because change can feel scary, growth can feel scary. And like I said, we can't do this alone. So it's really important to know that sometimes, even if one's relationship with food and body feels very frustrating and we would like it to be different, perhaps parts of us also really quite like the familiarity of staying where we are. And that's why, again, can't stress this enough, I think, we do need other people. We need to be in a community. We need to be connected so that we can be seen and held and accepted for who we are. We're all all, I believe, human animals have a very interesting relationship with food. It's not just those of us that identify as having a challenging one. We are animals. Food is to do with our survival. So it makes a lot of sense that it would be an area that's vulnerable to difficulty as well. So just to kind of wash away some of that shame about having this issue and, yeah, coming together.
It's beautiful. Yeah, that's a really important part. Thank you so much for that, Naomi. So to wrap up the session, did you want to round out with a little grounding, little meditation, little collection? You're feeling ready to
That would be lovely.
come back in, connect back in?
What an honour. Thank you.
Okay.
So yeah, just inviting you women to just turn the eyes of your awareness inwards just for these last minutes. Focusing on yourself, anything that's been stirred up, touched in this last hour or so. Some of your own thoughts, emotions, opinions. See if you can really welcome it all. Know that all parts of you, like I said, I really believe are trying to protect you. They may not know yet that they don't need to work quite so hard in this area, that actually there's help at hand from inside yourself, from the resources that there are there in infinite supply, and from outside yourself, from the universe, from this circle. So just really drink it in, see if you can receive it, and know that you don't need to know all the answers. Like Jen says, this is a one step at a time journey. This life journey, it's a one step at a time journey for all of us. And as we start to prepare to close the circle, I just invite you to connect with your heart. Just noticing how open it feels versus closed or guarded. Or it may feel kind of congested, or it may feel flowing and free. It may feel that your heart is kind of protected and sort of compacted into a small space. Or maybe there's actually a lot of room for your heart to take up the space it needs. You might want to put your hand there just to let that whole area of your body know that you're alive, you're present. Feel your breath. Really just being with what's there. We're all in this together as women, finding food and body freedom in this lifetime, so that we can really connect on deeper and deeper levels with who we are, who we're meant to be. So in this spirit of sisterhood, you might want to imagine hands holding the other women that have been here, and also that wider virtual circle of the women that are listening back over the recording later. Finding a way to heal this together, and maybe energetically squeezing the hands of the women to your left and right, or if that feels a bit too close, maybe just putting a hand on a shoulder or a back or near another woman, just so that you feel connected. And any darkness or shame or pain specifically connected with past experiences with food and body, just see if that can drain away now into the earth, into Mama Earth. She can take it all. She's a powerhouse of possibility when it comes to absorbing what's no longer needed and composting it and giving it back to us as nourishment. So just let that alchemical process effortlessly happen, nothing you need to do. And just breathing into your heart one last time and letting out a sort of sigh. Congratulating yourself for showing up here and welcoming yourself back. And maybe looking at the faces of Jen and me and any sisters you see, reading the names of the other sisters. Wishing you well on your journeys. May our paths cross.
Thank you so much, Naomi. That's beautiful. And you'll all be receiving the replay email with all the details that Naomi's just outlined. And yeah, just hope that this was supportive, insightful, constructive. And thank you so much for spending this time and this energy with us. Really honoured. Thank you so much. Okay, dear women, see you on the journey. Bye.
Bye.